What up, YouTube? All right, so it's Anti-Negative here, back again with another brew. And today we're going to be doing Mono Black Mid-Range. This is a deck that I brewed right when the set dropped here, so not really pulling this from anybody. But yeah, so the big draw to me building this deck was I can put in Terminus of Return here, and we're playing 3. We're not playing like 1 or 2 here because I'm cutting the land, so I can end up playing my Bloodletter on 3 or Elegy Acolyte on 3, and that's kind of the whole point of this deck. You can definitely cut like maybe 1 Slasher and then 1 Aclazotz for like a couple Demon Walls. You can also put in maybe some more like early game stuff just instead of like Luis. Luis is really cool because you can pair him with Bloodletter late game and then kind of like deal a bunch of damage out of nowhere. I.e. like if you play Luis and pump him for 5, which is like 7 mana, which again, you can play this late game. It will turn into like just 10 damage out of nowhere and you can just bop him in the face and gain a bunch of life. Obviously, it's a little bit more cool to just win the game. But yeah, I think this deck is actually really cool. We're also playing Egrix here because I think Gwenum is a pretty cool card, and this card in particular has been kind of a house, just having Death Touch and Lifelink. So you can, you know, pump it up with Archenemy's Charm, kind of blow people out, as well as gain a bunch of life, and then play a bunch of stuff off your top deck post that attack. So it's kind of a remove on site, really good against mid-range decks and other things like that, especially when the rest of the deck, you know, has Preacher, has Slasher, Bloodletter, that whole combo here. Then Archenemy's Charm. Everything else in the deck is kind of a kill on site, so once Egrix comes down late game, you're going to be able to rebuild your board and also threaten lethal as well, because you can just rebuild and put the combo back into play. Then you can also, you know, check out the sideboard here. We have a couple of the House Grow Hungry, which is pretty cool, just a murder on a stick. But you can also have them discard a card. If they can't or don't, they will lose 6 life if Aclazotz on the field. You also have some Cartu Revenants just in case. The End, Outrageous Robbery as well, just in case. And then I'm playing a host of Vivi Hate for Intimidation Tactics and Ghost Vacuum here, as well as some Duress. And then we have Liliana Dreadhorde, just because I think it's a really good top end card. Again, for more of the mid-range you control matchups. And yeah, hopefully this pans out pretty well for you if you want to try this deck. Be sure to leave a comment, like, subscribe, that whole thing. But also, you know, this deck's pretty fun. It's got me a lot of wins. And again, I built it right when this had dropped. So this has been pretty, you know, pretty on point. Again, if you want to change some cards, obviously you can use some more 2-drops here. You can go down to 2 Terminus and then 1 Slasher down, 1 Aclazotz out. You go 3 split on all these cards, and then probably add like 3 Demon Walls. If you really want to play Deep Cavern Bat, you can as well. I'm not a big fan of that card, so I don't play it. But yeah, so great deck. I think it's really fun, and yep, hopefully we can demonstrate some of the things I'm trying to do here, which is Terminus, play some stuff early. All right, let's get into the game here. All right, got a decent hand. I have Archenemy's Charm, Slasher, 2 Bloodletters. So we have the combo. All right, we got Is It Mana. Seems like it could be Vivi. FOMO, that's fine. They discard a Draconautics Engineer, not so fine. Alright, so instead of like dealing with what they're doing right now, we're just gonna play our Slasher out. Seems like they don't have a 3rd land here, so we're just gonna hope they don't. Alright, so FOMO discarding another card. They did not play land first, so this is good for us. And also, if they wanted to interact with the Slasher, they would have to bounce it. So we're just going to trade. You don't want them to actually have a board when they're screwed on mana. Alright, so we have a Terminus we just drew here. We're going to play that since we have 4 mana. We can Archenemy's Charm their only creature right now. I think that's probably a good move. Make sure they can't use that Winternight Stories next turn. Alright, they're going to hardcast, or I'm sorry, warp a Riddler in order to find their 3rd land. Looks like they've missed again. So we're going to play another Slasher, I think, or we can play Bloodletter. Yeah, Bloodletter looks pretty good here because next turn I can Louise them. Alright, so they found their 3rd land. They have Soul Cauldron. Alright, so they're dead on board. Unless they have a Flood Mob. I apologize for the exploding Glorp on screen. Can't really see their life total here. Alright, so we're going to pump Louise up here just for fun. Since I just dealt 4 to their face, now we can deal 5, which turns into 10 damage. So obviously you can see how good that can be with Louise. I believe they're down to about like 5-6 life. I was in exploding Glorp kind of mood. Alright, so they have a Tersa and now they have Vivi. So I was about to, you know, give them like a GG here, but it doesn't seem like it's GG because now they have Vivi and a counter with the creature. So they have 4 mana. They're going to play a Marauding Mako. Alright. This allows them to play Winternight Stories for 1 mana. Alright, now they're going to... Okay, discard 2. 1 Vivi, by the way. 1 Vivi. They were effectively dead on board, but they got 1 Vivi. Brace yourself for the 5-minute turn that's about to happen. Okay. Luckily the Is It winter hopefully is coming to an end here soon. Is It summer? More like the year visit at this point. Although at the beginning of the year we didn't have Is It kind of dominating everything. So really wasn't until the drop of Tarkir when we got Winternight Stories plus Corey Still. It really harkens back to like why blue doesn't really give us rare level like draw spells. It's like stock up is a good draw spell, but it doesn't do this much. Remember looking at Winternight Stories when it was spoiled and being like, wow, this is pretty good. Hopefully it's not unbeatable. Alright, so they have like infinite mana here pretty much. So we're not going to be able to get through unless for some god-awful reason they decide to... Well, they're going to play the Riddler, so that doesn't allow us to get in in the air. So that is that's a problem there. Which now looking back on like, should I have played Slasher or should I have played Louise here? And it was completely correct for me to play Louise because they took a 50,000 minute turn here. And they're drawing, I think they've drawn probably 15 cards this turn. And they have a 16 power Mako and a 10 power Mako. They have a Riddler on the field. Alright, so now, for lack of a better term, they are dorking it. This is not... Okay, so... The opponent just threw the game. So like I said before, if they were to... For whatever reason they just did that. Nobody knows why they did that. That does nothing. So now I just play Bloodletter and I win. I don't know why they tapped down their Riddler like that, but you know what? You can be a bad player and you can also play It is not immune to bad plays. Vivi is very difficult to play. Doesn't necessarily make you a bad player. Makes you less experienced with the deck. Similar to like Phoenix and Pioneer. Very good deck, very annoying when it goes off, but also there are many, many decisions to make. Alright, so how we're going to sideboard against this is we're going to sideboard in Intimidation Tactics. We have our Ghost Vacuums. We could probably cut some Elegy Acolytes in order to make space for some more of our sideboard here. Betrayal can also go in. Alright, so we definitely want to like have as much interaction for both their board and their graveyard as possible. So we're just gonna put all that stuff in. Strategic Betrayal on top of Ghost Vacuum is good because Ghost Vacuum only deals with one card, whereas Betrayal can just eliminate their graveyard. So that's a good game one. Okay, so we're gonna Tactics them turn 1 here. Look at their hand. They mulligan to I think 6. I think we're gonna get rid of a FOMO here. They have a pretty good hand. Hopefully they have to discard that Riddler. So they drew another land, which allows them to keep the Riddler and draw 2 cards next turn, which is pretty annoying, but it is what it is. So now we can play Terminus here and play Cecil, which is a pretty sweet turn, because now I have a mana rock and I have a 1-drop that doesn't allow them to swing. Alright, so they have Profs now. It looks like they discarded a land they probably shouldn't have. We're going to make sure they don't have that FOMO. I'm not sure why they think that it's correct to trade that there, but they can definitely trade it there. It's not correct. Definitely want to trade like a Mako or bounce it. And then they ripped the Obliterating Bowl off the top, so it's like I played probably one of the best cards against them, and then they had something else to go against it. Okay, so now we're going to play Annex, and all we have to do here is draw a land. Boom, we drew a land, so now we have a 6/6 next turn, and they're going to have to deal with that. So they have 2 Makos, they're going to play Quantum Riddler, draw 2 cards. That's totally fine with me, because I also have 2 interaction spells for them, on top of having a 6/6 next turn and draining them for 2. Our health toll is not bad here, so it's going to be totally fine. Didn't draw another land, so that's fine. Let's just make that 6/6 here, I think, and then we'll kind of move on from there. All right, got the 6/6, draining some life out. They've drawn their land drops. All right, they're gonna hard cast a Vivi. Totally fine. So what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna play Bloodletter. We're gonna smack them for 12, drain them for another 4. We're gonna play a Cecil, and then we'll pass the turn. So now they're just like down to like I think 6 HP. Like, that is not a small amount of damage I just did to them. That was 16 damage in 1 turn. They're just dead. Okay, so they're dead. Even with Vivi here, yeah, so they did nothing with their Vivi. All right, so we just locked it up. We just 2-0'd Vivi Cauldron with this deck, and it wasn't very close. Normally I vote no. Did not have fun. But when you 2-0 the best deck in the format with, you know, I would call this like a lot of new Spider-Man cards, but it's just mono black doing mono black things. Like mono black has always been a deck that can kind of high roll these types of decks pretty well. And you know what? When it does it pretty well. Our opponent kept decent hands, and in game 1 they had a 5-minute turn with Vivi under Cauldron drawing most of their deck. They made some errors which cost them the game. Again, if I had drawn a removal spell in that first game when they had Quantum Riddler to block, then I still would have won the game. So yeah, there's just a ton of ways for this deck to get through. We also have a ton of hate in our sideboard for like intimidation tactics, ghost vacuums, and luckily we don't have to deal with this meta for too much longer. So I think this deck even gets better. Dare I say it, it does get better. Yeah, it kind of has the same situation against Dimir a bit. If you're worried about the go wide matchups, you can definitely sideboard in some more like board wipes or whatever. But also Liliana with Terminus, you can get her out a little bit earlier, so you can kind of deal with the boards a little bit easier like that. I think 0 Point Ballad's a pretty valid card for this deck. There's also Deadly Cover Up and some other mono black board wipes that you can kind of like check out there. But overall, this deck's great. Hope you enjoyed it. There's definitely other people kind of brewing this. I've shared it in different communities. Again, I brewed this deck day 1 when Spider-Man dropped, and then I kind of shared it out. So I'm not really copying anybody's deck. This is just my brew. And then, yeah. So enjoy. Hopefully you have some comments. Maybe drop a like, maybe subscribe. Appreciate it. Either way, if you don't, appreciate you hanging out. Anyways, peace.